All right, let's do it. Let's just go ahead. Let's just go ahead and do it. A little bit early today. How's it going? Already, we got a chat. Christian Bailey, yo. How's it going? Yo, right back. Christian, how are you doing today? Thanks for stopping by the stream. Today we're talking about SpongeBob, and believe it or not, there's a lot to talk about. So we'll get there, but for now we're just hanging out. I'm gonna change the song. I just have another Animal Crossing playlist going. Because they don't copyright claim it. They don't even bother. They're just like, whatever. We won't release the music officially, so just use it in everything. If they suddenly started claiming Animal Crossing music, I think every one of my YouTube videos would be gone because I use that music in almost everything. So it would be an issue. Great, man. Good to hear it. Good to hear it, Christian. Watching anything good lately? Watching any SpongeBob? Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to the SpongeBob stuff in a minute. But if you've been watching anything lately, or if you have something to recommend, let me know. I always like getting recommendations from people because apparently I just don't stay in touch with, the new shows and things. So I really like to hear what other people have been checking out recently. And just for good measure, actually, I'll keep a running list, as I have done in the past a few times. So if anybody has something to recommend, go ahead and let me know, and then I save these to my PC so I can, whenever I'm like, oh, I want something to watch, but I'm not sure, I'm in the mood to try something new, which isn't often, but it does happen, I can go to one of these lists and watch a new anime or watch a new animated show. Or something else entirely. We all the time we talk about, live action TV and movies and stuff. So that works too. Christian asks, have you seen the new Invincible special? No, I have not, and I'll have to. Whoops. Unless we talked about it previously, but I don't think so. Did we talk about this one? I'm sure we talked about this at some point, right? I'm familiar with the name, and I've definitely seen like some of the characters and stuff before. Oh yeah, we might have even talked about this last week, actually. But no, I haven't. Is it good? Is it good? What was the premise? I mean, without getting into spoiler stuff, I guess. What was the vibe? How did it go? Zachary Quinto's in the show? Okay. And Seth Rogen. I did not know that Seth Rogen was in the show. Okay. Amazon Prime, easy. Yeah, we definitely talked about, because I remembered seeing that it was on Amazon Prime. Which I do have through someone else's account. But yeah, is this like the same song as before? Why would they have two of the same song in here? The next one too. It says it's about Adam Eve or Adam Eve's origin, and it's very good. Awesome. Okay. Well, cool. Here it is on the list. I'll keep it there. And yeah, I don't know. I have been getting rid of some streaming services lately. I don't know about you guys, but I think 3 or 4 of the streaming services I use have all increased their prices within like the last week or 2 weeks. Spotify went up, YouTube Premium went up, which I do have for reasons. And then I feel like another one increased the price, but Game Pass. So not really a streaming service, but you know what I mean. Game Pass is also increasing the price. So a little upsetting. I mean, they're just going to keep doing that, of course, for the rest of time. But it did start getting me thinking about, like, do I want all of these? Do I want to keep these? Or should I start bailing on some of these services? So it's been that kind of time lately. But I don't know. Maybe you guys have been going through the same thing. Also, Basic Geek is back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for stopping by. Basic Geek says, unrelated, but both the One Piece live action teaser and the trailer look good. Can't wait to August 31st. Nice. I'm very glad to hear that, specifically because I have not been paying attention to the stuff for the live action movie. It is just a movie, right? Not a full show? I mean, they definitely wouldn't do the entire series over again as live action. That would take many years, possibly even decades, to create. So I have not been keeping track of that or the new trailers or anything. I might take a look. Yeah, maybe I'll just put One Piece live action. Oops. Trailer. I'll take a look at that. I don't know if I could watch it on the stream or if they would yell at me for that. But either way, vaguely interested. I hope it is good, especially after the Cowboy Bebop live action disaster. I am hoping that they pull this off. I swear to goodness, this Animal Crossing playlist has had that exact same song 3 different times in 20 minutes. Why? It's not even like an especially good one. Why? What are you doing? Do I try a Zelda? Zelda seems like the wrong vibe. This is nice though. Never mind. What was I saying? One Piece live action. Sorry, I'll move on a second. But anyway, I have just been trying to catch up with the original One Piece anime, of course. I'm not far at all. I'm still in the 300s in terms of episodes. I'm on the story arc with Dr. Hogback and the zombies. So I have, what, another 700 episodes to go, or around that number. So, yeah, I'll get there eventually. But do you know, Basic Geek, if the live action is it a specific story arc? Or is it like up to date? Like, is it new spoilery territory, or is it sort of the origins of the Straw Hats and everything? Because I would be a little bit worried if it's like the brand new stuff that I'm not caught up on yet. Anyway, Christian asked, can you give your opinion about the Barbie movie, I guess, and what do you think about the patriarchy plot? Well, I haven't seen it, so not really. I mean, I, you know, as we all do, they've been doing a lot of marketing, so we all know a lot about it. And we also knew ahead of time that Greta Gerwig was going to be directing. And Greta Gerwig as a director versus as a performer, I'm a little bit split on. And it has less to do with the messaging of her movies and more just like the execution and like the performances in the movies. So Little Women, of course, was that maybe? No, I think Lady Bird was first, then Little Women. Greta Gerwig, she's obviously very well regarded. People like to point to her as, like, you know, one of the most prominent American female directors. So, like, all that's cool. And that also explains to me why a licensed Barbie movie would choose to work with her for this kind of project, right? Because there's no way that the Barbie brand wants to be seen as, like, misogynist. You know, they don't want people to see them as being old-fashioned and out of date and sexist. So it makes perfect sense to me that they hired, or I don't know if they made the decision or not, but either way, they said yes to working with Gerwig on the project. So I'll say that I'm interested. I am not surprised to hear that it has, you know, elements of contemporary feminism, and trying to discuss the patriarchy and stuff like that. I can't comment on it myself since I haven't seen it yet. That would feel out of place, you know? But if you have some thoughts, Christian, just let me know, you know? Feel free to share your opinions on that if you have seen it. But yeah, I'll have to do it. I don't know. I do kind of want to see it in the theater, I guess. I know that Barbenheimer is a sort of a meme right now. So who knows? Maybe I will do like a double feature and see how that turns out. But anyway, that's that. And Geek says that One Piece live action is going to be 8 episodes, and it's the first like 40-ish episodes of the anime. I just made it up to episode 106 of the anime. Okay, cool. All right, so you're still relatively early on too. Some good stuff though, some really good stuff in the first 100 episodes of that series. Especially as they start to gather up the crew You know, we're adding new characters. Obviously, we start to get the backstories of the different characters. It's I don't know. That's a lot of fun, and it also seems to me like it's one of those shows that's not too afraid to mess with the status quo, which is kind of the opposite of a lot of American animation, either adult animation or animation for kids, even SpongeBob, for example, right? Like, it is very rare to have a brand new character introduced who actually stays in the show over time. You know, The Simpsons, Family Guy, Bob's Burgers. It happens sometimes where they bother to add a new character, but yeah, I just think it's a lot more common in many anime, and it's definitely pretty common in One Piece to a certain extent, especially with how long the show has been running. But I do want to ask, Geek, do you have a favorite character so far? Is there anyone sort of calling out to you that you really like, or is it just kind of an ensemble thing where you're like, oh, everybody's cool. It's fun to watch them hang out. Also, I feel like I should have more of a something else going on the screen until we get to talking about SpongeBob, but I'm not sure. Not sure what to do. Here, I'll dredge up a file somewhere. I'm sure I have some old video files here. Anyway, yeah, still trying to get through the anime. It's going to take a very long time. And I actually have a little bit of a story about that too, sort of, I guess. Just that, so I'm working a bunch of different jobs right now, a lot of part-time stuff for like freelance stuff. And one of the, yeah, that's fine. One of the jobs I'm doing right now is that I talk to, oh, and my camera is covering up the list. Dummy, why did you do that? I'll find a good spot for it in a little bit, but put it there for now. So, one of my jobs right now is that I am what they call a conversational partner for Japanese people who are in the sort of the later stages of learning English. So they're at the point where they know they're fluent, but they're not, you know, they don't sound like a natural speaker, right? So basically what I do is I hop on video calls with Japanese people. Some of them are in the US, some of them are still in Japan, and we just talk, and I help them with like grammar and vocabulary and pronunciation and stuff. Anyway, that's a whole other story. We can talk about, you know, talk about that more some other time. But one of the people I talked to as part of that job is a Japanese guy in the U.S. now, and he's a big fan of One Piece. And I think he's all caught up too. So I'm able to talk to him pretty freely, just about like his favorite characters, favorite storylines, stuff like that. We were talking about the recent One Piece Red movie, not so recent, but relatively recent. It's fun. It's fun, and yeah, he's hardcore into it. You know, he's been following it for a really long time. So I just think it's neat. I just think it's neat because I came to the series so late compared to a lot of people. So yeah, it's just fun to chat about and fun to hear the different things that people like about a particular show. Anyway, here we go. Let's see. Christian, I think we're still talking about Barbie here. Yeah, I think it's very exaggerated about it and doesn't get its point across clearly without man-hating. Barbie movie itself is very funny and pink like a Broadway show. Okay. Yeah, I mean, fair enough. If that's, you know, how the messaging comes across to you, I totally get it. And I do know there has been a bit of, I don't know if we'd call it controversy or not, but there have been differing opinions on the messaging of the movie and how it's executed. And that's, you know, it's all fair. It's all completely understandable. That's just the nature of entertainment right now. As long as people are being respectful about it, I'm cool with it. You know what I mean? And I try to do that with my videos too, even if I'm being negative about a show or movie or something. I try to be really clear about, like, it's cool. Like, I'm happy for anybody who likes something or doesn't like something. It's a-okay. Anyway, but yeah, still I have heard from other people too that's pretty funny. That's good news. I think that's a good angle to take. Just make it a comedy. Is it also a musical? I know you mentioned Broadway just for a comparison, but like, are there musical numbers in it? Or it just kind of has the vibe of like a Broadway musical or something like that? Let's see. Geek says for the Straw Hats, it's Chopper. For the villains, it's Buggy. Based off the trailer, his actor is perfect. Oh, cool. Okay, I'll have to take a look at that later. Geek also says, plus something cool about the live action is they're wearing different outfits, and all outfits are based off drawings Oda made for the manga. Oh wow. Okay, that's pretty neat. I mean, I'm glad. I don't even know if the guy's still alive, but I'm glad they are using original source material. You know, it doesn't sound like it's some kind of crazy adaptation where they're taking it super far away from the source material stuff. So neat. Yeah, Buggy is a very funny character. I think it's been a while since he showed up in the shows in the episodes that I've been watching recently. And Chopper is great. Yeah, I might agree with you there. I think even now in like episode 350 or whatever it is, Chopper's still one of my favorites. I really love Chopper. And the full name of Tony Chopper is just perfect. Like, it doesn't need an explanation. It doesn't need to mean anything special. It just works. It just works on his own. And also Chopper's like transformations and personalities are so much fun. So much fun. I especially like the fact that Chopper can't take a compliment. Like, he's really bad if anyone says something nice about him. He's just like, oh, shut up. I don't want to hear it, but he's clearly glowing inside and very happy about it, which is something I can relate to. For a long time, I've been really bad at taking compliments. And I start trying to say, nah, you're wrong. You have some kind of ulterior motive to say something nice about me. Anyway, but yeah, Chopper's great. And I have no idea. Does Chopper show up in the trailer for the live action adaptation? Because I have no idea. Other than just some crazy CG monster thing. I don't know how they would pull that off. But then again, when does he even show up? I'd have to double check, but anyway. Christian says, Ranma Ranma half or 1/2. Maybe it's two separate things. It's on Hulu. It's about a teenager named Ranma who changes sexes when he's hit with cold water. Does it sound like your thing? Christian Bailey says yes to it being a musical, I think. I guess, yeah, sorry, there's latency, you know, with this stuff. Anyway, I will write that down. I have not heard of it before. But yeah, it does sound interesting. I guess I would be really curious to see how it's pulled off. Is this animated, by the way? Or why don't I just look it up? Ranma. I'll just look it up. Ranma half. Oh, this looks very anime. Is there like a new version of it? Or is this is just the one show? And it happens to be older. It definitely looks a little bit older to me, like 90s anime-ish. But anyway, going back to what I was about to say about it, I was like, I would be curious to see how they handle that, like relative to modern sensibilities about gender identity, obviously, and gender fluidity and stuff like that. So given the fact that this looks like an older show, I would be very interested to see how they handle that. Although then again, I feel like it's almost, it probably is a trope of anime and has been for a while now, the idea of gender bending stuff. Right, and like, or even fan art, you know, we're going to change the gender of this character just because we want to, because we think it's interesting or neat or whatever. Christian says that the Barbie movie does have 3 songs, and they're all sung by Ryan Gosling. Interesting. Very interesting. I mean, obviously he did La La Land, and his singing was decent there. You know, I'm sure he's had some training and everything. But okay, so 3, yeah, I think 3 big songs, that could be considered a musical, right? I think anything more than one, any more than one musical number probably takes you over the edge into the territory of musical. I don't know if everyone else would agree with that, but that's kind of how I feel about it. Look at this art, by the way. What a great poster. Or cover, maybe, of manga? Yeah, looks like. So good. The colors, framing, poses. I don't know what this panda is about, but I'm intrigued. Okay, I'm down. So yeah, I'll have to. I did put it on the list, I guess, but which I'm covering up again. Let's find a good place for the list. I should make my. I really don't need my camera that large. Now we can all see what I'm talking about. I love this art. That's what I was saying a minute ago. Looks very nice. Anyway, Geek says Oda was deeply involved. Not a co-producer, but he gave his word and advice, and he did not let them release it till he was happy about it. And no Chopper because they're not in season 1. Gotcha. Okay. But yeah, all of that makes sense to me. And I don't know if I was on that team, you know, if I was working on that team for the new show and I had not been involved in One Piece before, and Oda was there heavily involved and kind of breathing over your shoulder, I would be very nervous. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but like I would be very, very nervous to, you know, be under the watchful eye of basically a legend in that world. That would be crazy. That would be a wild time, and I would be very concerned that I would mess something up. Oh, look, is there a live-action version of this, too? Or is this just like a spoofy thing? I also recently found out that there is a live-action, at least one live-action Evangelion movie. And I only got into Evangelion, like, what, maybe a year ago? Year and a half ago? Don't know why they would do a live-action movie. I don't quite get that, but I'll probably have to check that out sometime soon. And by the way, I mean, I don't know if you guys are into it in general, but I did watch the Evangelion Rebuild movies a while back, and I was this close to, you know, making a video about it, and I had a whole script going and stuff. And I just couldn't. I don't know. It just didn't quite come together. But I do think they're definitely worth talking about. I know a lot of other people have made videos about those movies. So we'll see. But there's a lot to talk about. There's a whole lot to talk about when a franchise just expands in such weird ways and tries to rewrite itself over and over again. I don't know. Pretty fascinating. Some of this art kind of reminds me of Sailor Moon, I guess. Maybe some of the character designs. Although Sailor Moon faces, I think, are pointier, generally. But yeah, anyway. The Lon Lon Ranch song, that's very nice. Yeah, again, this art. This is great. Also reminds me of some of the art for, like, the early Puyo Puyo games. Just great. Anyway. Geek says next year is Angry Video Game Nerd's 20th anniversary. Wow. Wondering if he's going to do anything for it. I mean, it was the first internet celebrity. Yeah, I mean, certainly in terms of like internet celebrities where it's a career. You know what I mean? Because in the early days there were like those viral stars like Numa guy or like Star Wars kid. You know what I mean? Like just people who happen to be in viral videos. But that was accidental. Right, like they weren't trying to become big stars necessarily. They just happened to go viral, and that was that. And they didn't really like build a career off of it. So yeah, whatever we call the category of people who like really made a job out of being famous on the internet and getting huge numbers of views on their stuff, specifically on YouTube. Super interesting. And yeah, even just the fact that you're saying like 20 years at all for anything regarding internet content creation is pretty wild to think about. Like, yeah, it just it just didn't really exist in the 90s at all, and even in the early 2000s, it was such a climb to internet adoption, and especially adoption of like YouTube specifically or other video sharing sites. And it took time for the dust to settle and for YouTube to become basically the biggest player in the space. Anyway, I assume they have some pretty big plans to do stuff for that. I have no doubt that he has like a whole staff at this point helping to make videos and edit stuff and produce things, whatever. So I have a feeling they have a big whiteboard up. I should be using this hand because it's on screen. I have a feeling they got a big whiteboard up and they're just like, okay, here's a big special we could do. We could have a bunch of guest stars. I'm sure they'll do some kind of thing where they look back through, the previous seasons and some of the highlights, because they've even done that for some of the previous seasons as well. So yeah, that would be interesting to check out. But I have no doubt that they have some pretty extensive plans, and I feel like people would even get upset if they didn't end up doing stuff. Like if they didn't make it feel special. Yeah, there might even be special merch, or like a live event. That would be kind of interesting, right? I don't know if he does a lot of live stuff, but either way. Yeah, anyway. And I might have mentioned previously, or we talked about AVGN, not recently, but at some point. Yeah, I watched for a good while, and I definitely know that there's still a decent amount of respect for him among other professional YouTubers and video game YouTubers specifically. I also know there was some kind of controversy that I just didn't look into because I didn't want to. So it's a whole thing. But yeah, just such a presence, and the numbers he continues to get are just insane. Especially to someone like me who's never been popular on the internet. That's just not my world. Anyway, but yeah, it should be very interesting to see what they end up doing. And I'll have to check it out. And you know what I might do? Sometimes when I just need to have something on in the background, I'll put on some of the compilations that they do where it's like, oh, here's a whole season of AVGN, and it's several hours long, and you can just have that running. I do that pretty often, either with his stuff or zero punctuation compilations, or anything else where you just have really long videos or playlists that you can go through. And it's nice when you like someone's internet persona or personality. It's just nice to kind of have them around, when you're working on something. Anyway, okay, well. Is it time? Is it time to say a couple of things about SpongeBob? And as always, by the way, like, I have topics for the streams. Everyone's always welcome to interrupt. Like, it's very casual, obviously. It's not like we're sticking to some kind of schedule. So feel free to just say whatever at any time and give me more recommendations for stuff. But yeah, there are a couple things with SpongeBob that are worth talking about this week in particular. And I didn't even plan it. I did not plan it this way. I just thought, oh, we'll talk about SpongeBob because, like, where is the franchise right now? Where can it go next? Because it seems like they're kind of in hot water with some of the newer shows they've been doing. And then something crazy happened. And if you guys have been around certain corners of the internet, then you already know about the big thing that happened with SpongeBob in the last couple weeks. If you don't know, I will explain some of it in a moment. And just for the heck of it, I will throw out right now that, yeah, there's a bit of a content warning. I won't be showing anything crazy on the stream. Don't worry about that. But yeah, there's some things going on within the SpongeBob fandom right now that have to do with the team that originally made the show. So we'll get there. But first, there were just a couple of smaller things that I wanted to touch on that sort of inspired the stream in the first place, which is just what is going on with SpongeBob right now. How is the popularity of the franchise enduring? Is the franchise still, like, strong? Is SpongeBob still a big brand name? Do people still really care? And I think for most of those, the answer is, like, yeah, it's still a strong property. It's still very valuable, obviously, whether just from merchandising and, like, residuals to some of the newer stuff that's been moderately successful, I guess. But there's more to it, it's more complicated. And these are just some of the problems that come up when a show lasts for so long, and tries to have a bunch of spin-offs and, like, a whole series of movies at this point. So it's a whole big deal. And Geek rightly says here, I feel like SpongeBob should have ended in 2018 when Hillenberg died. Steven Hillenburg, creator, of course, of the show. Uh, I think that's a totally fair perspective. I mean, depending on what the production schedule was around that time, maybe they already had made stuff or were in the process of making new episodes. So up to that point, I totally get them continuing, and just say, well, yeah, there needs to be more show. Beyond that, it's up for grabs, Like I totally get the perspective of, hey, just stop. Like, we don't need to. We've made enough money from it. Let's move on. However, the more cynical side of me just thinks about how this is Paramount, uh, ultimately, which is actually what? Like Viacom? Is Viacom owned by Comcast? Either way, this is one of the big giant media entities that exists in the world now. One of the 4 or 5 biggest in the US specifically. And as we know, by the state of Paramount Plus as a streaming service, they have a lot. They have like a decent number of really strong IPs that people really care about. But they don't have everything. They're not Disney. They're definitely not, Warner, HBO, or whatever they're calling themselves right now. They don't quite have the same reputation as some of these other big media entities. And I have no doubt that SpongeBob is still one of their biggest things. Like, it's almost definitely one of their most profitable franchises over its full span of time. And it's obviously still really popular. Even if we're just talking about, like, older people like me who were really growing up with the early seasons of the show, who really like the pre-movie SpongeBob seasons and the jokes and the memes. That's still a really strong fan base for one thing, but there's also plenty of people who have continued to really enjoy the later seasons of the show. So I get it. Like, they need it in a way just to make a bunch of money. However, the issue there is that some of these other spin-offs that they've been doing, they don't seem like they've been that successful, at least based on the little bit of research I've been doing and what I've been able to find, because we can't look at like TV ratings anymore, right? Like, for one thing, sometimes it's not available. Like, they don't even list them for Camp Coral or for the Patrick Star Show, as far as I know. But they're also not that relevant because so many people, especially kids, are watching this stuff on iPads. They're watching it on a computer or a smart TV that has the streaming services plugged in. It's hard to get an idea of how much money a specific show is making. So all we do have to go off of in terms of Camp Coral and Patrick Star Show, and by the way, if you're not familiar, Patrick Star Show is kind of aimed at a slightly older children audience. Camp Coral is aimed at like sort of the preschool children's audience, right? We don't know. We don't know in terms of money how well they're doing. We just know that the reviews are kind of all over the place, but mostly in the toilet on different aggregate sites and stuff like that, review sites. Also, your pal Polly. Welcome, Polly. Thank you very much for coming by the stream. Polly says, he went from a Nickelodeon to an iconic mascot. Nickelodeon could halt production and bank on him like their old IPs, but it's really the only one that has that global power. I think that's a great point, and I think it connects to what I was saying a little while ago of just like the brand recognition is huge. Even just from the first couple of years, SpongeBob was massive, and suddenly the merch was all over the place, including unlicensed bootleg merch, which kind of parallels what happened with The Simpsons in the early years. Like, The Simpsons was most popular when it first started out. There was a huge explosion of popularity. It was new and exciting. People were into it. Crazy merch deals, even talk of a movie early on that didn't happen until much later. SpongeBob is very much the same way, I think. I don't know if we could say that it was most popular when it first came out, but it was a big deal right away. The first couple of episodes, people were like, oh, we know this. Kids were into it. And like Polly says, international reach, too. Like, just his stupid little design. I don't think it's stupid, but it's kind of a simple design, and it is an iconic design. And that's what else do they have? Rugrats is great. It's not on the same level. Fairly Odd Parents and some of the other old Nicktoons. They're also great. They are definitely not on the same level as SpongeBob. There's just no competing with the past success of the franchise. So from that angle, from the cynical, business-minded, financial perspective, I totally get it. I totally get why they continue trying to do things with this franchise. However, based on the little bits of data we get here, it doesn't seem like it's going very well. It's also kind of weird when Common Sense Media gives you a really bad score. I feel like they only tend to give bad scores to stuff that's sort of inappropriate for kids or things like that. Critics, it's a children's for very young children, so I guess, there are 2 critic reviews. Let's see. They both had generally positive views of it. People, probably not, in the target audience of the show. These are probably these are probably older people, meaning adults or like teenagers who happen to like SpongeBob. They're not into it. Sorry, I need to catch up here too, because Geek says, I'm surprised that there isn't a Sponge World. I guess that's a good thing. We have enough theme parks. I mean, is there some kind of relation to Paramount and some theme park? They used to have Nickelodeon Studios. Do you guys remember that? Is that what it was called in Florida? I think it was in Orlando. It was kind of a theme park. I guess it was mostly like a themed hotel. They did You Pick Live there for a little bit. Can I bring that up? Do you think that would get us a copyright claim? Let's see. But I agree with you, by the way, Geek. I totally understand. No, I want the. Was it called You Pick Live where they had the outdoor events? Slime Time Live is probably the name. Sorry, let me get past an ad here and then we'll get to it. Let's see. Yeah, so do we have any more information about how some of these shows have been? 13% on Rotten Tomatoes, by the way, is not excellent. Not a huge sample size either, but the show seems to be over. The show seems to have had a very short run. And as for Camp Coral, actually, let me see if I can find it. I saw something interesting about Camp Coral recently. Here we go. Check this out. Over on change.org, my favorite website, cancel the SpongeBob spinoff, Camp Coral, with a lovely meme template here. We have 77,000 signatures. Are they real signatures? Are these all real people? Maybe. Maybe they are. Let's wait a minute. Wait a minute. Is this before it even released? SpongeBob good, spinoff bad. I love SpongeBob, but this is disrespectful and shouldn't happen. And they're citing the fact that apparently a friend of Hillenburg said that Hillenburg wouldn't have wanted a spinoff. Okay. Yeah, fact of the matter is we have over 70,000 people who are willing to sign an online petition, which granted doesn't really matter in terms of the real world. It's like, Nickelodeon probably isn't crazy interested in an online petition, but either way, those are kind of some big numbers for people upset about a show, which it seems like at the time might not have even been released yet. Or Greedy shows up quickly. Woof. I wasn't even aware of this level of controversy within the fan base until I started doing a tiny bit of research, a few days ago about this. But clearly, we cannot call Camp Coral, or the Patrick Star Show massive smash hits. I do not get the sense that they're making a huge amount of money. I'm sure Camp Coral in particular has plenty of very young viewers who just, it's on, it's available, the character designs are cute, why not? But I don't know how much that's translating to, actual revenue for the whole project. But sorry, I feel like I need to get caught up here on chat as well. Polly saying here, Nickelodeon's had a ton of theme park-ish ventures. I think Cartoon Network has one water park. Okay, so there's been some dabbling, I guess, in the area. But yeah, I don't know. Like, obviously, Disney they acquired Avatar, I guess, for the movies, but also for the sake of having the Avatar world in the theme parks, right? I guess I would also draw a comparison to Nintendo World at the Universal parks. It's, similar enough, where you have basically a kids franchise, but one which is also known by a lot of adults. Yeah, I don't think, and this is maybe getting to the heart of the matter, is that SpongeBob is a very strong property, but it kind of feels like for a while it's been coasting off of the past success as opposed to generating new fans and new interest. You know what I mean? So many of the classic episodes are considered to be pre-movie, so that's like seasons 1 through 3. There are great bits of the later seasons, definitely. I'm not trying to write those off at all. But in general, people seem to connect more with the early seasons of the show, and the people who happen to be working on the show at the time. So I get it. I don't know. I'm skeptical about the idea of SpongeBob continuing on for all of time. Certainly reruns and stuff, right? Like, watch the old episodes. Sure, that's enough to bring some people to Paramount Plus, which is increasingly a weak platform that I don't like to spend time on. But is it enough? Is it enough to justify all these new production costs? Whatever the budgets are for these shows, they've got to be substantial. Probably not enough for a theme park in any stretch, by any stretch of the imagination. Yeah, so it's tricky. It's very tricky. Geek says, my friend's sister's works at a day camp. She said that most kids don't like SpongeBob as much as the past 2 generations had as kids. That's actually a really interesting perspective. Just like, different groups of kids coming up. I would say especially like, maybe 6 to 10 years old. I feel like that's kind of the sweet spot for maybe not so much Camp Coral, but SpongeBob proper, the mainline series, right? Also, how many SpongeBob games have there been? Let's see. Probably spelled it wrong in the process. There's a whole Wikipedia article here, folks. Don't you worry. A lot is the answer. A lot. And he's made special appearances in all of these. And I think it's, in a way, similar to the different shows and spin-offs, is that some of these, popular. People are into it. People having fun. Other ones completely forgotten. Stuff that a handful of people encountered. They're not especially well liked in the time after. So it's a mixed bag throughout. It's not like SpongeBob is a guaranteed hit. It's not like just stamp SpongeBob on something and automatically it's successful. It just doesn't. It's proven time and time again that that's just not how it works. Polly says 1999, 2004. Kids hold it near and dear. Definitely. I mean, I absolutely count myself among that group generally. Like, I was, how old was I? Don't know, 7, 8 years old when the show premiered, and even from the first episodes, it was a huge deal. Like I mentioned earlier, like it was a big event, and it was also so rare, or it felt so rare for them to release new episodes, that those were also events. Especially the first time Band Geeks showed, we watched live, and it was crazy. Like, it was the end of the world. It was wild, and there was a lot of excitement to that release schedule and everything. So yeah, I totally understand people who feel that way. I relate to that as well myself. But yeah, it does kind of seem to be fading a little bit. Christian says, I think it's stagnated like all shows. It's drowning into itself, or yeah, kind of eating itself alive a little bit. I get that as well. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's just there's a huge financial incentive to continue producing new stuff, and the market doesn't necessarily support that. There just isn't enough. There aren't enough people willing to specifically throw money at subscriptions just to watch SpongeBob or to buy a bunch of SpongeBob merch, although I have no doubt that SpongeBob merch still sells really well, even for people around my age. So yeah, it does, just on the little bits of information we're getting here and there. It seems iffy. The future seems just a little bit iffy. Geek says, I was born in 2006. I still love SpongeBob till this day. Yeah, me too. I'm still there with you 100%. Almost daily, by the way, I hop onto the SpongeBob subreddit, specifically the SpongeBob meme subreddit, which I think is Bikini Bottom Twitter. And it's great. I think it's actually kind of a fun community, you know, and there's a variety even within that community. People who really just like the early stuff, people who have continued to watch the new seasons, and different generations as well, you know, like I would say generally younger people, like under the age of 40, but still a variety, you know, people who just found it, people who have been watching since the start, almost like Pokemon in that way, although Pokemon continues to be the most popular thing in the world, I guess. Yeah, anyway, Polly says, early SpongeBob totally holds comedic value between kids and adults with its witty writing. I imagine it was a big surprise. Goodbye, everyone. I'll remember you all in therapy. Oh, so much. So many lines. I totally agree. Yeah, it's what in the past I've called adult-friendly animation, although it's not a very good phrase. It works for both kids and adults, totally. And there's a ton of stuff in SpongeBob that you really only get as an adult, and not just like sort of inappropriate, you know, jokes, just things in general. There's the famous Squidward line that I actually forget, but he's something like, you know, nobody cares about the fate of labor as long as they can get their instant gratification. It's like, no way would a kid be wrapping their head around any of that, but totally works as an adult. There's plenty of like slapsticky or visual humor that maybe appeals more to the younger people. I still love some of that stuff anyway, though. And yeah, I don't know. People talk loud when they want to act smart, right? Correct. It's like it's just so good. It's so sharp. And there were those, you know, there were a few seasons or even just a few episodes. It was just back to back, just killer jokes all the way through. Wild stuff. Okay, so here's the thing. There's some stuff that came out recently. I'm hesitant to get into it at all, honestly, but it's just something I have to bring up because we're on the topic. And again, you know, like a content warning, some of this stuff is strange and adult in nature, so please be aware of that. And I won't be showing anything in detail, obviously. I wouldn't do that, and also YouTube would really not be in that. Also, I don't like this character of Narlene. I watched a few episodes of Camp Coral, and I didn't really like it. Christian says, oh, the book. Yes, oh, the book. Yeah. I'll just rush through this. Okay, so somebody, I believe a YouTuber, released a video, and it was about, I don't know what kind of research they did, but they basically uncovered this sort of very unofficial insider joke book called Behind Closed Doors. And it's really not, like, it's just a little printed out collection of things. And basically, it is a collection of little drawings that the storyboard artists on the team working on SpongeBob in like 2002 or 2003 did in their spare time, just for fun. Just real quick, do a little sketch, you know, and then they would throw it up on the back of a wall. Thing is, some of these images, which all, by the way, are all of the main characters of SpongeBob, are adult in nature, let's say. We don't need to get into nitty-gritty detail. Obviously, they never planned to release this stuff to the public, and the book only exists because this one person in the office just like gathered them together, just scanned them in, you know, and printed off little booklets to hand out to the rest of the people in the office. And now that the world knows about Behind Closed Doors, it's just been what I would call a massive controversy. Maybe not a massive controversy in the world at large, but for the SpongeBob fan base in particular, I do think it's been a pretty big deal. And it's been most people have fallen on the side of, oh, this is gross, this is unethical, it should not have been done at all. And yeah, like I basically agree with that. I mean, in particular, it's just the fact that it got out, really, is just very unfortunate. It would also be unfortunate if someone in the office, like, felt uncomfortable about these drawings. Like, if someone was not on board with doing these very crude crude drawings of the SpongeBob characters, that would suck for them. Like, that's just not a fun workplace environment, you know? Beyond that, I don't really know what the response will be at the official level, because I really doubt that any of the people who did this stuff are still working at Nickelodeon. I really doubt it. It's been a long time. And so it's not the current team. You can't yell at them. And even the original team that did this stuff, I don't know. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I do think it kind of comes at a weird time for the series when, as we've already seen just in our little bit of pseudo research today, yeah, there are a lot of people who are, you know, slightly older fans of the show or whatever, who just, they don't like the new stuff, and they're not super on board with how the show is being handled and how the spin-offs are coming off and everything like that. So I think it's kind of causing more tension in the relationship between, like, the IP of SpongeBob as a whole and the people who really like SpongeBob and follow it and like to make memes about it and stuff. Geek says, my ex-girlfriend's uncle is a nom vet. SpongeBob helps him cope with his war flashbacks and PTSD. That's actually really cool. That's a really cool story. I mean, and actually, I mean, not that I'm not a a Vietnam vet, to be clear, if you couldn't tell. But I will say, you know, I'm a pretty anxious person. I get stressed out. I'm doing a lot of work lately. SpongeBob is such an immediate relief. You know, like I have some of the seasons saved to my computer, and I have the streaming stuff too. It's so immediately relaxing, and a big part of that is the nostalgia, of course. But the other part of it is what we've been talking about the whole time, of just like the quality of the writing, how immediately funny it is on multiple levels, and just, yeah, again, the nostalgia, yeah, just the happy memories of watching way too many episodes of SpongeBob on a school night or in the summertime when there was nothing else going on. And I think that's great. I think that's a really powerful thing that a lot of media can do, especially stuff that, you know, we have strong memories of, that we watched in the past. Or hey, even if you're someone coming to the show for the first time, yeah, I think it works. Like we were saying earlier, works for kids and adults. It connects with audiences of different age groups. So yeah, useful in that way. And I support that in general, the idea of someone using media as a way to relax or a way to distract themselves from potentially, you know, difficult thoughts, we could say. And yes, Polly, Polly confirms an apparently crucial component of the SpongeBob character, sort of revealed in behind closed doors, so to speak. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, I didn't want to linger on behind closed doors too long as a topic, but it definitely is something that, especially on like the subreddit right now and different internet forums and stuff that happen to talk about animation or specifically SpongeBob, it's a huge thing. It is a huge thing. And for the most part, I think most people are just viewing this as it's a negative thing and potentially unethical to do this kind of stuff if you're working on a kid's show. Again, it is tricky because obviously they would never have released this stuff. This isn't some kind of official SpongeBob project, obviously. But yeah, people are obviously totally justified to be just kind of grossed out by the whole thing. I get it. I find some of it funny, but I probably shouldn't say that. I probably should not be giving that take right now, but I don't know. Maybe it's sort of the darker sense of humor that I get sometimes that finds it a little bit funny. On a much lighter note, to take us away from sort of the drama and the controversy, there is some of the funny I know is related to like storyboard artists working on shows, right? So sometimes I go up to Burbank. I live in LA. If some people are unaware, not because I want to so much, but just because this is where I live. So I go up to Burbank sometimes, and Burbank is where a lot of the studios have their lots or like offices and stuff. And specifically, there's near downtown Burbank. It's called. You have the Nickelodeon office and the Cartoon Network office, like super close to each other. There may be like, I don't know, 3 or 4 blocks away, like half a mile, very close, right? And it's interesting. I don't really know. I maybe know one person who works at Nickelodeon, but like we're not super close. It's not like I have insider info. But anyway, the quick story I wanted to tell is that in downtown Burbank, you have different restaurants and stuff. There's a mall, and specifically there's a Five Guys. For someone who doesn't know, it's just a burger shop, and they do the thing where there's a wall, and you can put up like your own art. You know, you can draw on something while you're waiting for your food, and you stick it up on the wall, and you say, "Oh, thanks for the burger or whatever." You know, you do a little doodle. So because that particular Five Guys is so close to both Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network, whenever I used to go there, the little doodle wall was like filled with really good artwork of Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network characters because artists from those teams were just going there and hanging out, you know, and doing little doodles. So you just have these like really killer drawings of SpongeBob and Patrick and Finn and Jake, you know, and all these different characters. I thought it was so cool. I used to have a photo of it. I should have saved that at some point. But just neat, and to me, it definitely highlights just something about the storyboard artists in particular, is just they have to be so good at turning out these drawings incredibly quickly. Like, that's their job. They just need to be able to draw on model consistently and very quickly, you know, hundreds and hundreds of times, of course, maybe in a day, to make different boards for episodes and stuff. So I just thought that was neat. I don't know. I'm very removed from professional animation in just about every way, but that was a neat little window, you know, into just some of the people actually working on these shows and making it happen. So that was very cool. Yeah, I really wish I could find that picture I had, or maybe I should just go back soon and see if there are any more up there. Anyway, and I agree, geek. Yeah. I'm sorry I had to bring it up at all. I apologize for for making you aware of it in the first place. But again, yeah, just kind of weird coincidental timing for this stream where I had planned this out ahead of time. I didn't know that anything crazy was going to happen. And then all of a sudden, yep, that video dropped, got a ton of traction, and yeah, became a big subject of debate, and more so just a subject of like disgust and shaming, you know, around the whole thing. So it's been an interesting time to be a fan of SpongeBob, and to try to come to grips with where the show is today, or where the property is today, I guess, as a whole. Polly says, seeing great art out in the wild is an amazing feeling. Right? No, I totally agree. And it's not just stuff like that, you know, that's like really professional or whatever. But I used to be really into street art when that was like cool and kind of new. But yeah, I used to live in Boston for a while, and then I moved out to LA later. And in both cities, I used to go out all the time just to look for little street art stuff. So some people were doing like wheat paste stuff that they would post up on walls, or stencil work, you know, with spray cans and things. Free-handed spray painting stuff. I think maybe once I saw a Banksy back in the days when Banksy was like super cool and everybody was looking for his stuff. But yeah, exactly for that reason that you mentioned. Like, it's so neat and a little bit magical to come across something that's really well done, uh, unexpectedly. It's just a really nice surprise because so much of the time, urban environments can be really boring and kind of ugly in a lot of ways. Uh, so all of a sudden, coming across some little detail or some doodle or piece of art that someone put together, uh, it's really neat. And I used to do some of it myself too. Uh, some of it is probably hidden away on my Instagram, but a long time ago, when I was even more angsty, I used to do a little bit of street art stuff as well. And I kind of still like it. I don't know. I like doing little paper things that I can stick up on walls, but it's been a long time. Why did I bring this up? Oh yeah, I was gonna try to watch a little bit of Slime Time Live without getting copyright claimed. Do you think we can do it? What if I block a corner? You think then maybe we can get away with it? And I'll keep Zelda in the background too. This is our strategy. To kind of confuse the audio too. I just wanted to remember this. Yeah, so Slime Time Live was the outdoors one where they had different weird mini games, and then You Pick Live was like a studio show with the presenters, and they were like, here's the next thing we're gonna watch, right? But I liked both, but I really liked Slime Time Live. Yeah, just different like Double Dare style crazy stuff. This straight up looks like Double Dare here. It's also not outdoors. What is that? Who has those hats? Do you think those hats survived? I mean, I would do that. I would do that at like a barbecue. I want some of these games. Geek says zoom in and out like those Family Guy videos. I wish, yeah, we could like resize the page a bunch, but I'm worried I'll make someone sick. I just want to see a little clip. I don't want to watch this whole thing. I want to see someone do a game. There was a thing where someone would call in on the phone and try to guess numbers or something. But yeah, there's like it's basically, yeah, look at these sliming devices. These are cool props. Like, these were cool sets that they made for this stuff. And completely insane. Like, I can't really imagine any TV station or even streaming service doing this kind of thing today. I just don't see it. But yeah, the goofiness and the cartooniness of this kind of stuff, but in real life, was really neat to me. And I also think that was part of the appeal of like Legends of the Hidden Temple and Double Dare 2000 and stuff like that. Really good professional industry professionals. That's a great phrase. Making crazy, kid-friendly props and stuff is really interesting to me. Not super related to the overall SpongeBob topic, but hey, this is what happened to come to mind when we were talking about the old days, the old-fashioned days of SpongeBob. I bet we could do this without getting... I'll just leave something else here in the background that I don't think will get claimed. Probably on mute. No. Nicktoons Summer Beach House is a big thing. Kind of a crossover thing. Anyway, oh wow, my video footage is really... Hang on. Oh, much better. Oh, good. Okay. Anyway, so yeah, I don't know if there's anywhere else to go with like the state of SpongeBob today. And I think, at least everyone who's been hanging out in the chat, I think we're basically in agreement that obviously plenty of people are still really passionate about it. I personally still really love the show. I watch it pretty often, but there have been some missteps along the way, some official, some unofficial, so to speak. And these spin-offs in particular, the recent spin-offs, just do not seem like they have been connecting with audiences, which is an issue. Like, then it's a failed project. you know. As far as I know, the mainline SpongeBob show is still going. I don't believe it's been outright canceled at this point. I don't think so. Whether the spin-offs themselves or the continuation of the show are like inherently disrespectful to Steven Hillenburg, I can see the argument, and I think I mostly agree with that perspective. At the same time, I'm also 100% sure that Steven Hillenburg was completely aware of the fact that this was a giant corporate property. You know, like I'm sure he signed many contracts, essentially giving over most of the rights to Viacom, right? So I get it, and it seems like Hillenburg was also just like a likable dude. I guess he was just kind of a nice guy. I'm sure he was also filthy rich by the time SpongeBob really took off. But yeah, I don't know. It's less the idea of being disrespectful to him, and the fact that these shows have just not been very successful, that are probably, have the potential to get Paramount or Viacom or whoever to rethink doing these at all. So whether or not they will continue with the spin-off shows, specifically Camp Coral, in the future, I don't know. We'll just have to sit and wait. We've got nearly 80,000 people who really hope that they do not continue with that particular show. We certainly still have the old episodes. That's a win on its own. Just being able to access all that old stuff, which has suddenly become, more difficult with plenty of other shows where they just wipe them from streaming services. So I'm extremely happy it's still around, that we get to keep those old episodes, and even the original SpongeBob movie I loved, and that's something else that I rewatch every once in a while. So yeah, so there we are with SpongeBob. I think we've done a decent job of talking the whole thing to death. Or I certainly have. I'm running out of my voice even. But yeah, that's where we're at. Very interested to see where things go. But for the moment, there it is. If anyone has some more comments, let me know. But otherwise, I think for the next, 10 to 15 minutes or however long it's going to be, we can just hang out some more. We can just chat a little bit more. And again, if somebody has recommendations for things that they've been watching and liking, or that they think that maybe I should check out, go ahead and mention them, and I'll put them down in the list. Hopefully I haven't missed any so far. But yeah, there we go. So yeah, we'll just kind of hang around. Geek says they're making a Rick and Morty anime. Why? Well, I can answer that, because they think they can make a bunch of money from it. And they're probably right. That doesn't mean it's going to be good. I would be very interested to hear who's actually producing it, like who's going to do the animation itself. If they're going to outsource it to an actual anime studio in Japan, then I think I'm more on board. I would be more interested in it automatically, like how the Cyberpunk anime, they went to Studio Trigger, and it was excellent. Like they got people who really know anime to make the anime, as opposed to something like the Superman show, which I do not think was given to a Japanese anime studio, and it's a very different vibe. So we'll see. But even, is this something I talked about recently, or was I just writing about it? But there is a long history of Adult Swim fans also being into anime, because for a while in the old days, that was one of the only places where you could watch anime on TV if you had like cable, basically. Toonami, like the late night programming for Adult Swim for a while, was just anime stuff. So that was kind of a gateway for a lot of people into anime. So I have no doubt that a lot of the Rick and Morty fan base are also fans of anime. So that's my guess there. They probably looked at the numbers and thought it would be a good idea from a financial perspective. But anyway, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm excited about it. Yeah. So there's that. Christian says, here's something weird. A manga named Zom 100, Bucket List of the Dead, is getting an anime adaptation, and a live-action movie is coming to Netflix Friday, but I think it's only on Netflix in America, and it's a Japanese movie. Does chat have a letter cap? I don't know what that last part actually means, but either way, I think I'll put down what I think the name of it is. Do I have Netflix anymore? I think Netflix did the weird thing where you have to be signed into the right. You have to be on like the same Wi-Fi as everyone else on the account or something. I think I got kicked off of Netflix. I don't know if I can access it anymore, but either way, I will look for it. Cool. Geek says I've been rewatching Dr. Stone for the 5th time. Really love this anime. That's probably something we've talked about before, but either way, it's not something I've watched yet. So there you go. Why does it stop doing that? Sorry. I shouldn't be trying to save the doc right now. It's gonna be fine. Let's see. Polly says Toonami revolutionized the West. I mean, yeah, it was a big deal. It actually was a big deal in the olden days, where you just couldn't get it. I don't know. It's weird to think about that today, right? Like, and I know there are some younger people who have, I'm sure they have a different perspective, but like, yeah, for anyone who grew up with just television, regular television, and like the internet was a whole different thing that was for emails and business. Yeah, totally different feeling and very restrictive, and just even the sense of, oh, I don't even get to watch a specific episode of a show that I like. Just whatever rerun is on, I have to do, which was especially junky for like serialized shows. Like Indigo League, the original run of the Pokemon anime, was so frustrating because you would never get the episodes in order. It would be like, oh, here's episode 3. Here's episode 35. And it's like, but I don't know. I didn't see all the other ones. It was very hard to actually watch a show all the way through. And even if you wanted to buy a VHS, you would get maybe like 3 episodes on a tape. And even those probably wouldn't be in order. It would just be like 3 popular episodes. So anyway, Holly's right. Yeah, Toonami was a very big deal in a time when anime specifically just wasn't as accessible in the West as it is today. And there wasn't as much anime either. Like, so much more is being produced now than was in the past. So, yeah, big deal. But yeah, I think Hamtaro, Sailor Moon, Pokemon, those were probably the first anime I ever saw. And those were probably all of the anime that I saw for a good long while. Geek says, for the Rick and Morty anime, director Takashi Sano, animation by Telecom Animation, film produced by Sola Entertainment. Okay, I mean, it certainly sounds like they have gone to a Japanese studio or to Japanese artists. That's the impression. So cool in that case. Yeah, that's automatically a plus in my book. That immediately makes me more hopeful that it'll actually be worth, watching and checking out when it actually releases. But anyway, there you go. What else we got? Did I write that down? I mean, I guess I'll add that to the list. Although I don't know when the show part releases. But I guess that movie's soon. That was a different movie. That was for Bucket List of the Dead. Okay, here we go. Geek says Dr. Stone is about every human has to turn to stone for 3,700 years, very specific. But a super genius high school kid wakes up and has to rebuild humanity with the power of science. It's semi-educational in a fun way. Oh, okay. Neat. That just the educational aspect makes me think of Cells at Work. If you've seen that one, where it is an educational anime about the inner workings of the human body. It's kind of Osmosis Jones vibe. Well, very much an Osmosis Jones vibe. But yeah, oh my gosh, I rewatched the Osmosis Jones movie somewhat recently and did not have a good time. That's I don't know. It hit a little bit different, I think. Toods, welcome back, Toods. Good to see you. Toods says, I remember getting a Pokemon DVD for Christmas with a few unrelated episodes. I never even thought of Pokemon as a serialized show with individual seasons when I was a kid. Same thing. I didn't even know the word seasons. Like, I didn't understand the concept of, there's certain times of year when we release new episodes of the show. I just thought they released a new episode whenever there was one ready. And there was rarely a new episode ready if we were talking about SpongeBob or Fairly Odd Parents, or Foster's Home, stuff like that. So yeah, but yes, we had a Pokemon VHS that I think had like Squirtle Squad. Definitely had the Charmander episode, which we all know. We all know that episode. And I still haven't finished Indigo League. I have a way to watch that whole series now. And I probably should, because I don't know, it's a weird childhood dream almost to actually see every episode and how the story progresses, how Ash catches all his different Pokemon. Oh, and by the way, I'll mention this very briefly. I don't want to give too much away. But I also started watching Pokemon Horizons, which is the most recent mainline anime, I think. And yeah, I think I watched like 6 or 7 episodes, only subbed. There is no dubbed version yet, although I think it's on its way. But guess what? I like it. I have not watched any of the other Pokemon anime series or seasons, whatever. Just those one-off Poke-Tunes they did for a while. But wow, it's actually kind of good. It's very weird. And I think maybe that's what's drawing me in. I was really worried for the first couple of episodes. I was like, this cannot be. Like, I'm just bored. Like, I know exactly what's going to happen. And then it just went in the other direction. Yeah, it's actually kind of good. So maybe I'll finish that. Maybe I'll talk about it on the channel. We'll see. But anyway, Geek says, I mean, there's still fights and mild cursing because it's still a shonen. Oh, for Dr. Stone. I see. Also, I apologize that this clear VHS rip of Nicktoons Summer Beach House is flashing. That's probably uncomfortable. So I'll just skip ahead or stop that. Hopefully this fixes it. Either way, cool. Yeah, Dr. Stone sounds neat. I might have to check that out. If it's on I think I still have Crunchyroll. I think I'm still paying for that one. Did that price go up too? Ugh. Anyway. Christian says, Power Rangers is getting a new season, but this time thanks to Hasbro buying it and putting it on Netflix, it has no restrictions, unlike it had for the past 15 years. It doesn't mean it's going to be good. Sorry. Okay, hiccup. Okay, so that's not the once now and forever again thing, right? That was just like a special with some of the original Rangers. Yes, from Mighty Morphin. Yeah, so here's the thing real quick, Christian, on Power Rangers. So I watched it as a kid. I didn't continue following it over time. Wow, this really died, huh? There we go. Last year, because I have a friend who's super into Power Rangers big time and has mostly followed the other seasons of the show and stuff, I went with them to Power Morphicon, which is the Power Rangers convention, which was in Pasadena. So I went to that last year and was completely out of my depth and had a very interesting experience, including meeting some of the most popular Rangers and having awkward interactions with them. But we can save those stories for another time. But yeah, anyway, so I got a taste of some of the newer Power Rangers shows and stuff, which I knew nothing about before that. But yeah, I don't know. I guess I'm happy that it's continuing on in general. Like, there is a very dedicated fan base. I do think it still has potential to bring in new people, of course. So, fingers crossed, I guess, for new Power Rangers Netflix projects. I also think that Netflix. I think Netflix is a decent platform. Like, it's a decent fit for that franchise. So, yeah, nice and accessible. I hope people get into it, and I hope the new shows are actually good. That's kind of the most important thing. Tude says, wait, are TV seasons named after the fact that they're released during a fixed period every year? Kind of. kind of. So it's close, but not really. So I think it goes back to original broadcast television in the U.S. when there were three stations, right? So what, it was ABC, CBS, and the other one, NBC, and then Fox came along in like the 80s, I think. Either way, for a long time there were just those three stations, and as far as I know, the sort of primetime season uh, was fall. I think like September into October is when you had the big shows releasing new episodes, or at least that's definitely how it was when like I was growing up. That's when the big network shows released new episodes. That is still the case for like The Simpsons, Bob's Burgers, Family Guy, a lot of CBS crime dramas and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure are still on the fall season schedule. Some have a mid-season break and continue on into spring, but I'm pretty sure that's where the roots of it come from. Although I'm sure someone could easily, Google it and get the true story. But I think so. I think that's where the term originally came from. But now it's a little bit meaningless, of course, right? Because we have with streaming, anything can release whenever. Nobody's keeping to, or they don't have to keep to, a specific and consistent annual schedule for releasing new episodes. They could take a 2-year break. They could take a 5-year break if they really wanted to. They could release new stuff in June. It doesn't matter, So it is a little bit of the past, I guess. But yeah, the term is definitely stuck, except in the UK, where they call a season a series, which is very confusing when you're talking to a British person about TV. Anyway, Geek says, so Power Rangers is going to be more like Super Sentai now? Well, I guess that's a question for Christian, because I don't have the details on that. But yeah, I am interested. And I guess I do think I heard about Hasbro purchasing them, although I don't know if that was recent or if that was a few years ago. I don't quite remember. Kind of makes sense as a toy company. There's also like there's a whole like Power Rangers tabletop RPG game. They have the Battle for the Grid video game stuff. It's like a fighting game series, right? Yeah, they do a lot. They do more than I sort of thought they did. Anyway, hi Cat. What's up? We switched to live cat cam. Hi. Hi. No. Anyway. Tude says, I like the HBO model where the seasons release whenever they're finished, but they never release all the episodes at the same time. Yeah, so I think they still do the weekly release schedule for a lot of those. I don't know. I'm kind of split on the weekly release thing. Like, it can be really exciting for a big serialized show. At the same time, there are certain shows, like maybe comedy shows, where I just want all of it. Like, I Think You Should Leave on Netflix, the sketch comedy show. I think they do a weekly release, but I would rather they didn't. Maybe it's the opposite. But either way, stuff like that, it feels shorter form, and more consumable. I like to have them all at once and just kind of binge it. But for more serious dramatic work, it can be really exciting to have the, 1 week at a time. Remember Breaking Bad when that was brand new and they were releasing new stuff? Like, that was a big event. People were really into that. And there was an excitement to that, and obviously that extended to social media and things. So, yeah. Geek has a witty comment here, referencing when, streaming series release. Or they have a 10-year break and be canceled twice, like Futurama. Totally. Yeah, that's the other thing too. There are no guarantees, as we talked about with SpongeBob. Like it's just all up in the air. We have no idea what is going on in the minds of the people making these programming decisions, especially for the streaming services nowadays. Like it feels like the Wild West, despite the fact that we have this oligarchy of a few very large companies controlling stuff. Christian says, yeah, a little bit, like Super Sentai, I think. But them getting rid of the Sentai footage, I think it's going to be more Western, to answer your question. There you go. I mean, that was for geek, but there you go. Tude says, I know most older TV shows had 24-episode seasons, which takes half of the year if they release one episode a week. Yeah, and then probably a mid-season break. And then for a while with Prestige TV in the early 2010s or late 2000s, I guess, it was like 10 to 12 episodes or maybe 10 to 13 episodes a season, which I think has kind of remained the norm for some of the more like serious, dramas and stuff like that. So yeah, it just shifts over time. But obviously, the original release schedule in the olden days of broadcast TV, everything was built around advertisers. Like when are we going to have the most people watching TV, the most people within our target audience for the show watching TV, so that we can say to our advertisers, "Oh, look, we have 8 million people that tune in every single week because this is the 1 hour during the week where they get new episodes. Sell them your soap." Literally, right? I mean, that's why soap operas were called soap operas, right? Lots of soap advertisers. It's all about big soap back then. Geek says, as for One Piece, it's never. It never ends, and they release new episodes every Sunday all year long. It's wild. Yeah, I can't imagine what it's like to work on that show. Especially as like a rank and file animator. I hope they get paid very well. I imagine it's a lot of long hours. I think it's a lot of long hours and probably some crazy deadlines. But yeah, their output has been insane. One of the longest shows ever, right? Christian says, just watch a video about the series Raising Hope, a show I recommend. Okay, I'll put it down. If you have any more details, let me know. Oh yeah, there's another kind of trashy looking animated show that came up recently I saw it on a billboard and I don't remember the name. Praise Petey. Have you guys heard about Praise Petey? So it's one of the actors from Schitt's Creek, whose name I also forget. And her father dies and she inherits his cult somewhere in the countryside. I think it's like brand new, and I don't really like the look of it. Here, it kind of looks like generic adult animation to me a little bit, but I haven't watched any, so I'm trying not to judge too much or to be too harsh with that. But yeah, whereas this is Hulu / Freeform, which means it's Fox, which means it's Disney. Either way, I think it's been getting kind of middling reviews so far for the most part. But yeah, I might have to give it a chance. I'll just go ahead and write it down just because. Also, that's how I find out about new shows today, is people tell me about them or I see them on a billboard. That's just how it goes. There we go. Christian had it. Yeah, Christian had it right away. Praise be, I looked at the trailer and it looks a bit like porn. Wow. Okay. I have not seen any clips, so I cannot comment on that reading, but an interesting take for sure. Yeah. So we'll see. I don't remember if I have someone else's Hulu login or not, but I'm not crazy about the art direction. It really does scream, animation domination, adult animation stuff. Like it just, I don't know. It's not really my thing. But who knows? Maybe the comedy's killer and some really great writing and really great performances. Well, I guess we'll have to see. And it's 20th television animation, by the way. It's not 20th Century Fox. Fox has been removed. It's been scrubbed from that logo. Yeah. Boy, oh boy. Anyway. Toot says, speaking of generic adult animation, did you hear about the Star Trek crossover episode between Lower Decks and Strange New Worlds? Yes, but only earlier today. I was on one of the Star Trek subreddits, and somebody mentioned, and they were like, very excited about it, you know? I think somebody also mentioned like a musical episode of Strange New World. Knocking over my router. So we'll see. Yeah, I did not keep up with Lower Decks. I kind of had a bad first impression, and I made a video about it a long time ago. Who knows? Maybe I would like it now. And Strange New Worlds, kind of a similar thing, where I watched the first episode or two, and it was kind of rubbing me the wrong way, or I didn't like the vibe, so I didn't keep up with it. Doesn't mean that I've written them off, but I also don't have Paramount Plus. So it is tricky to actually watch, you know, the new episodes. Did you see that episode, Toots? Did you check that out? Also, was it that they animated the Strange New Worlds characters, or did they have live action versions? I feel like it would be easier to do everything in animation, right? As opposed to trying to adapt an animated show into live action, I would assume. Toot says it was very fun and loaded with fan service, but the animated segments were too generic, flavorless, because they did not want to alienate the SNW audience. That's a fair read, and yeah, I have no doubt that that they have fairly different audiences overall. I'm sure Lower Decks is probably a much younger audience in general as compared to Strange New Worlds, and crossover too. You know, there are probably general new Trek fans who like both just fine. But anyway, but neat crossover episodes in general. Like, you know, it's a gimmick, but it's generally a fun gimmick, I think. Who can forget? Oops. Who can forget the Jimmy Timmy Power Hour? What a time. What a time that was. Talk about, you know, certain television episodes or new episodes of shows feeling like a big event. Wow. The Jimmy Timmy Power Hour was huge. That was such a thing. Crazy town. Anyway. Yeah. There we go. What is this? What? It's like a knockoff thing? Oh, it's like a mock-up, I guess. I don't know. The voice actors for Lower Decks characters showed up in live action. Oh, in the story, they fall into a portal and end up in live action. Okay. So is the lore explanation that, like, these are just different timelines of Star Trek? So, like, one Star Trek universe happened to be animated? Like in Hitchhiker's Guide, right? Where the one segment's like stop motion yarn figurines or whatever. Bree, how many of these did they do? Oh my gosh. Wow. Anyway. Okay. All right. Well, yeah. I don't necessarily want to, but I should probably wrap up. I actually have some more work to do, unfortunately, this evening. And then tomorrow, I'm very excited to play Ratchet and Clank on PC. It's releasing tomorrow morning. And a friend was nice enough to get that for me, so looking forward to that. So yeah, I need to get some work out of the way ahead of time, and we're gonna do some rearranging of furniture and stuff. So I need to do some of those preparations. But anyway, boring stuff. Yeah, this has been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed the stream, and happy to talk with everybody in the chat. I'm also, you know, thankful for anybody watching the archive version of the stream later on. That's great. It's very helpful as well. Thank you. And we'll see. We'll see what the next video is going to be. I don't know. I have a feeling that I might be transitioning to like only doing a video once in a while. That's kind of a longer video and something that I'm really invested in, instead of just sort of quick one-off videos. That's just, I don't know. That's where I'm landing on it. And clearly I don't know. Yeah, a lot of people just don't like the shorter one-off videos based on the stats. So, yeah, maybe maybe that's the direction things are heading. Oh, except for quick note. Well, first I'll read Toots' comment. It was fun seeing how much the voice actors over emotes when you put them next to actors in a series show. That's funny. Lower Decks is supposed to be in the canonical future of Star Trek, not an alternate timeline. See, I didn't. I'm a fake fan. I don't know anything about the lore of that one. Okay. A fine angle to take. Why not? Sci-fi gives you a lot of leeway on that stuff, you know. But yeah, sorry, I forgot. But a quick note, just for anybody who's made it this far into the stream. There will be a video releasing on the channel tomorrow. I think at noon Pacific time. I think that's when I scheduled it for. And here's the thing about that one. I won't give any details. It'll be a nice little surprise. It might get taken down immediately. I don't know for sure. So far, YouTube has said like, "Oh, this is fine. There's no issue here." But there's a difference, you know, when something actually shows up. So it is very possible that the video will be like DMCA'd or copyright claimed immediately upon release, or like within the first day or two. So if you would like to see that video, keep an eye out for it tomorrow, meaning the 26th of July. It's quick, it's short, but I'll leave the rest as a little surprise. Anyway, not something I'll be doing on a regular basis, but yeah, there's a very good chance that someone will decide to pull it. So who knows? But anyway, I think I'll just wrap it up. Yeah, I'll go do some more work now, and I'm losing my voice, so there's that. But yeah, again, lots of fun. Thank you everybody for hanging out. I really appreciate it. And yeah, at this point, I really like streaming almost more than doing videos sometimes. So I will try to keep up with the schedule. I don't know if it'll always be Tuesday. For now, it's Tuesdays, but who knows? It might shift over time. So that's it. Good night, Toots. Yeah, thanks for stopping by. And thank you to everyone else as well. And yeah, that's it. I'll see you in the next one. All right, bye.